back, everybody. We're going to learn another way to apply the X rule today, the X rule that I kind of talked about when we did the circles and cylinders. So we have a rectangle here, okay? So here's what I want to show you, is that now we can find the middle of this rectangle. Obviously, we already know this by making an X from one corner to the other corner and vice versa, and that gives us the exact middle, right? Okay, this is obvious. We can draw a line from the middle from right there, line it up, and we can get the middle from the sides. We can also, let's see, get the middle there too, right? If we line this up and get the middle that way as well. Okay, so here's what I want to show you guys. As long as we had this midpoint and we had one half of the rectangle, we would be able to get the other rectangle by drawing a line from the corner through that midpoint, because remember our X gets us that midpoint. So if we can find one corner and take it through that midpoint where the X would be, we would hit the other side. And then by extending those lines out straight from the top and the bottom of the rectangle, the one half, you'd be able to get the rest of the rectangle. Okay? That makes sense? I hope so. Now, if we drew a line through that midpoint, we can just keep doing this. We can get through the corner, we can find another midpoint, and we can make another rectangle, and so on and so on. Okay, and with that, we can get these even rectangles, just continuing to make them and stack them next to each other. Okay, and what's cool about this is that it works in perspective as well. So what I need to do is I get two lines going to the vanishing point, and I need to make a rectangle within those two lines. And once I've got that, I can treat this rectangle like it's half of a larger rectangle. So let's see. So I can get the midpoint, right? I can measure this by using a ruler and measuring, because this line is not going away from us. These lines on the sides I cannot use a ruler for. This one I can. Or I can do an X and I can get the middle that way and line it up. And once I get that line, I know where the midpoint is. From there, I know an X would hit that midpoint and come to the end here and give me the other half of a larger rectangle. So I've treated this first rectangle like it's half of a larger rectangle to get the distance that the other half would be in perspective. And I can keep doing this. I can keep taking a corner, taking it through that midpoint, and keep going back and further back, and I can get these spaces evenly going back in perspective as far back as I can, fit my pencil in there all the way back. Okay, that's super helpful for us to make things like sidewalks, to do railroads, to do anything with even spaces going back, windows even. If I can do the same thing, turn it at a 90-degree angle and do it the same way that way and get windows, all sorts of things. And I can even go forward with it. I can take a point here, go through the midpoint there, and I can go that way. I just need one rectangle to start from, and then I can extrapolate all the other evenly spaced rectangles from that one rectangle. Okay, hopefully this visual helps. Let's go ahead and try and do it on paper. All right, so let's try and do that on paper now. So first thing I'm going to do is get a horizon line. Let's put it up high a little bit so we can have some room. I'm going to go ahead and put it off to the side because we're just going to do a couple things and might as well leave ourselves some room down there. All right, so the first thing we need to do is come up with a rectangle to make spaces from. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my two lines, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and just do this right in my dark pencil here. I'm going to give myself some room here, so I'm going to make it a little bit wide at the bottom. And this could be a sidewalk going in perspective going down to the vanishing point, or could be, whatever. Let's just say it's a sidewalk for now. Okay, so I need a rectangle to start with. And just because this is practice, I'm going to go ahead and do this just to keep the lines hopefully looking different. I know they don't look too different on camera. Once I see the film, I know that the blue looks pretty dark. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a segment to work with. I'm not going to make it too small. If I make it too small, I'm going to get too small too quickly, And again, for practice, I don't want to do that to anybody. So keep yours, keep your square or rectangle a good, decent size. Okay, and then we want to make even spaces going all the way back, the same segments, with the same segment size as this, the same rectangle size, okay? So let's do what we know here. Let's go ahead and get the middle. So we need to treat this like that first half, and then we need to make like it's one half of a larger rectangle, right? So we're going to get an even rectangle going, over here. So we need the middle. Now we can measure the middle, and that's fine. If you have a ruler, you can do that. But I like to just make an X real quickly because it's fast and easy, and that works for me. So here we go. And I don't need to draw my X all the way. I can just draw it somewhere in the middle there. Okay, let's get this side here. There we go. Got a little X there. Okay, so I'm going to take that all the way to the vanishing point. Let's go ahead and line that up. And I'm going to make a light line going all the way back. You're going to want to keep it very light because in the end, it will not be there. You won't need that line. Okay, so we've got all we need now. So now I'm going to make this my larger X here. Instead of an X for this half, I'm going to go ahead and go from this corner through that point right there. And again, I don't need to make the line. I can just mark where it would be. I can line it up and just kind of mark where it would be over here. Because the less lines that I have to erase later, the better. And then for this, I'm going to go ahead and do this right in my darker pencil because when you're doing segments like this, you don't want to have to, retrace things over and over again. It just gets monotonous. I'm going to line it up with my edge of my paper here. Okay. There we go. And let's do it again. And keep going back. And then our spaces will be getting smaller at the correct rate in perspective. So once again, I'm lining up my X with this being the midpoint. Now I am not making a complete line because I don't need to. I just need where it hits this edge right there. That's all I need. Okay, lining this up. And going across. There we go. All right, continuing right along. Lining up with my corner here. Making a little mark, going back. I know this is monotonous, but sidewalks kind of are monotonous. So the spaces, it's just the way it is. But this is an important little concept to get and to understand how things get smaller and at what rate they get smaller when drawing backgrounds in perspective. And this also works in 2-point perspective, no problem. These lines would just be going to the other vanishing point. Okay, lining it up. And at some point, it'll get too small for my pencil to really be able to draw. But that is definitely not the case yet. I'll just keep it like that. It's actually a little easier. All right, keep going, keep going. Kind of missed my mark there, but that's okay. I know where it would hit. And usually, if it's obviously we're humans, so we make little errors. That's fine. And, but as long as it's getting smaller each time, it should be, it should look pretty good. Switching to a sharper pencil, especially as I get all the way down to these small ones here. And if all of a sudden one looks larger, then you know you've got an issue, and you might need to take a look and see how you need to fix it. Let's see here. Okay, looking pretty good. And, you know, again, at some point, I'm just going to decide to just eyeball it and then kind of maybe turn it into a value once it gets so far away. But let's try and get one more back there. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. Okay, now, again, I'm starting to get really small. So this is, and again, this is for drawing, for concept art. So as long as I start making my spaces smaller and smaller at this point, you know, I should look good. And then at some point they would get so small you wouldn't even be able to see them. You know, I can just add like a little value there. And it'll look like it's receding in space. All right, there we go. We got even spaces going back. We can use this for a variety of things. But let's go ahead and try this X rule on a box over here. So let's make like a rectangular kind of box and just break it up in a different way. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself 2 lines here. And I'm drawing the side first. Don't know why, but I did. Because that's the side that matters to me, I guess, right now. That's why I did that side first. So I'm going to give myself a corner here. And I'm going to make it a little bit on the longer end for like a rectangular box. Okay. So there's my side going towards the vanishing point. And from here, I'm going to extrapolate my rectangular side that's facing me. This side doesn't matter as much for what I want to do. It's going to be a little thinner. And then let's get my straight line here. Lining this up with a horizon line. Straight down. Okay, now taking this to the vanishing point here on this side. Very thin because it's getting really close to the horizon line. And that's okay. That's what it looks like when we line our eyes up with something and it's, you know, our eyes are pretty even with something. Where this would be, the horizon line would be where our eyes are, and if it's very close to the top, it would get thin. Okay, so I've got a rectangle to work with. All right, so with this rectangle, I want to split the sides up. So let's practice here on this front side first, and we'll get into some segments. So I'm going to go ahead and make an X. Now again, I could do this with measuring with a ruler and all that, but I don't need to. I can just use my X. I can go like that. And again, I didn't make it all the way, right? Don't need to. That's going to cause me to have more lines that I'll have to erase or ignore or whatever, and that's just too messy. So there we go. I got a little mark there. Now I'm going to go ahead and line this up with the horizon. There it is. Okay, so I've just split this front side into 2 halves. And you could essentially just keep going. So, you know, I could make more X's if I wanted to. And keep splitting this thing up. And this gives me even segments. Now I can do this too. Look, I can just do 1 line. And since I have the midpoint here, I can line this up. Put my pencil right on it there. Try and line this up. and I can make a light line right there all the way across. And then instead of having to make 2 X's, let me make that, it's a little high. Again, I can't, with the camera in the way, it's a little hard to see the how my pencil's lined up. Redo. All right, there we go, right there. Let's see. That looks a little better. Okay, so that gives me the half way is marked here, right? If I got the half, and then I got the midpoint marked by this X here. Because if I made another X, it would cross right at that midpoint. So I can just go straight down. I don't have to do the other X, the other side of the X, because I already have that marked with my horizontal line. Okay, and I can do the same thing over here. I can do my X by lining these 2 points up right there, making a little mark right there where it would hit. And I can go straight down from the horizon. And there we go. Just broke this up into segments, right? This could be a fence. It could be all sorts of things. It could be the start of some windows if this was going to be a building. Now, again, you can get this by measuring and doing all that with rulers, but we can't do that on a side going towards the vanishing point. That's where we run into trouble, but not really, because we've got this X rule to work with. So let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. So I'm going to go ahead and get an X marked here. Find my midpoint. All right, so see how the middle's way over here, right? We got a lot more space on the side closer to us than we do over here. And that's just, in perspective, things get smaller. As you know, in real life, when we see things closer up, they look bigger. All right, there we go. Okay, so now I've divided this into 2 even boxes, right? Even though the closer one looks bigger to us. Now I can keep dividing this by making a line, just like I did here, this line right there. I'm going to get that same line going to the vanishing point. I'm marking it through that midpoint right there. Okay, and now that's going to allow me to keep breaking up these boxes. I can take this corner up here, down to this point right there. Mark that there, and while I'm here, I'm just going to do the other one, because I've already got my straight edge in the right position. So I might as well knock 2 out at once. And once again, I don't want to necessarily have to retrace all these lines, although I already have a bunch to retrace. But I might as well go ahead and line these up and draw them in my dark pencil while I've, so I don't have to do it twice. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, and I'm here. I might as well just keep going. Let me just... Now, if this was, once again, if this was going to be a drawing or finished drawing with a building or something like that, I do usually wait as much as I can to do this at the end, because, I might draw things in front of this. There might be objects on the street if this was going to be a building or something. So I at least want to have everything kind of roughed out. And I'm just going to keep making these marks. These vertical marks. If I can line my things up properly. Finish this thing off here. Okay. All right. We've got 4 even rectangles. And again, you can see how you could just keep breaking these things up as much as you need to, depending on whatever it is. So super helpful for man-made objects. when drawing in perspective. It gives us the rate at which things would recede in space. And it makes things look good. All right, got one other line up here I didn't see, I forgot about for a second. My ruler is not quite long enough to hit that, so I'm gonna have to just line it up with it. And I've got my horizontal lines. Line these guys up. And this really thin back one up here. There we go. All right. That's how we use the X rule in perspective, and hopefully it made some sense to you, and hopefully it helps you out in your drawing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.